Hey, it's Brian here from quantlabs.net. I just wanted to go over where I'm at, lessons to be learned so far of developing a trading platform, specifically automated trading systems or high-speed trading or systematic, whatever, even with HFT potential. These are the lessons to be learned. Capturing real-time data, it's not too hard, especially if you're using IQ Feed with the developer API. Not an issue there. The communication between the two, pretty straightforward, especially if you're doing it in .NET. If you're going to try another language, good luck to you. Also, the trading strategies themselves, I built a trading strategy, a custom one, proprietary one, from scratch, fairly easily, fairly quickly. So that would be considered a very difficult process. And when you're doing it directly in an easy language like C#, it's not so hard. And it's not so scary. So you just got to know the strategy and how well. That's where you prototype in MATLAB. It's great. And also integrating MATLAB into C++, or sorry, C# using something like a Simulink coder or MATLAB coder, or even bridging it with the MATLAB Builder NE or Builder JA if you plan to knock your head against the brick wall using Java, which I'll get to in another video. You can do it, but if you're going to be building a very complex model with in the simulator world they call them subsystems, and that obviously has its advantages there. So those are the general lessons to be learned from my end over the last couple of years. And the other thing, when it comes to open source trading platforms or third-party trading platforms, screw them, because you'll learn a lot more faster building a trading platform than trying to reverse engineer some demented open source trading system with crappy documentation or unhelpful communities or no community at all, or some overpriced trading platform which is a third party, which is likely written by some foreign dude or company that just don't understand the logic of how software engineering should really work, or on and on I could go. So building your own trading platform has been critical so far in my success for the last 6 weeks, let's say. I've learned more about that than ever else, because when you're trying to save time in building or trying to basically use something that exists, you're going to waste more time trying to, like as I said, reverse engineer something to understand it, go through a debugging process. It becomes a complete nightmare. And at the other end, you're left with some vulnerability that screws you at the end. Like a good example is TradeLink, with this now movement towards Glean and such an exorbitant price for what you get, and with the unhelpful support. It's just, honestly, I wouldn't go down that path, no matter if you stuck a howitzer in the back of my head, because it's just, I tried it, don't want to go down there. I'm not going to get into programming wars. Everyone has their own advantages. I have mentioned Java before. I'm going to do a whole spiel about Java in another video in a little bit. So at the end of the day, what is the most complicated process in piecing together a trading platform? As I said, the strategy is complex, depending upon what you want to do. But what I'm doing is very simple, and I just said screw it. I don't need really MATLAB, so I did everything in C# and .NET. Now, people have been asking me about garbage collection and all this other wonky stuff. For every challenge you have with a language and you try to get around it with another language, let's say C# or Java, with its garbage collector versus the C++, you're going to run into nightmares when it comes to managing your own memory. So if you want to have fun with that, go for it. And you want to trade with live money and you're feeling lucky, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. Now, as I said, the most complicated process in the whole design and implementation of these things is definitely, without a doubt, tick management. Tick management, you send it to a trading algorithm or a model, makes a trading decision, and then sends out an order. Now first you have to understand what kind of order, stop loss, trailing stop, you have to worry about stuff like that. And what happens if your strategy puts out, let's say, 3 or 4 orders, which turns into obviously positions that you now have to manage. And at the other end of it, how do you manage them as other things are going on in your system, meaning data, your trading logic to manage that data as it will start to basically send out other orders, subsequent orders. So you could have, let's say, 5 positions open, and you have to manage those on top of everything else in the system. Now you can imagine that becomes what we call complex event processing. It becomes a complete nightmare. And that is easily the most complex process in the whole scheme of things in trading platforms. People never think of that. And that is where the key to being a quant is, or any developer, or any trader. That is the key. If you cannot manage this stuff properly, you're going to get blown out by writing crappy trading platforms, which means you're going to lose money because inadvertently you may close out a position when you shouldn't have, or you may have a position left open that may get exposed to an overnight event, things like that. And that debugging process is so critical. And again, trying to do a debugging process on the command line, I mean, if you want to live in the era of the 70s, go for it. This is why a really powerful, interactive visual debugger is critical to that success. And both MATLAB and Microsoft's Visual Studio allow that. I've taken a look at some other Java ones, or NetBeans, and they're just as fine, but just setting them up is just, can't be bothered. I do like my .NET. I've also just posted Linux versus Windows. It just doesn't seem to be an argument from my point of view. Linux is really cumbersome. All these dependencies, you're just banging your head against worrying about trying to compile this dependency and that dependency, and I can go on about it. Whereas the .NET just shields you from all that sort of stuff. We want to worry about building trading strategies and being able to implement them fairly easily. And that's what, for me, .NET and Windows gives. I'm not trying to be one of these dudes from Microsoft, but that's just from my experience. It's just easier than some of the other charting packages. I'm going to show you one from Java, just the spiel about, I can go on about Java and what Oracle's done botching that language. Other than that, I just wanted to give that as a learning lesson, that the most complicated process is easily orders and position management, because tracking that, monitoring that is just a pure challenge of anything I've seen so far in this whole process. Talk to you later.